And just like that, we're back again. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys are liking the content on the DA Integra on the channel. I'm just trying to clean this thing up, make it enjoyable, and just enjoy it a little bit longer. If you watched the other last video, the basis of this video is me going over how to get, if on your DA or your older Honda, your fan has stopped working, and you know the switch is good, is something else going on. Now with this particular car, it's a GS model, and it had AC and stuff. And I know some of the DAs didn't have AC in them, so this may not pertain to you. The first part of this, it somehow, like 10 years ago, my fan stopped working automatically, and I could never figure it out. I went and got a relay. That wasn't it. I went and got a fan switch, new one. That turned out not to be the problem either. But I wanted to drive the car, enjoy it, and I always had plans on getting back to trying to figure out what the heck happened, why it just stopped working. And I know through the schematics that I had seen that this car, because it had AC, had some type of fan module, something like that. I could never locate the fan module or anything, but going off the schematics, that's what it told me. So I wound up just putting in the regular toggle switch, and I would pretty much have to babysit the car. The car never overheated. I never had a problem with running that toggle switch. It just got to the point where you had, like I said, you had to babysit it. And it just, I don't know, man. It just was not clean enough for me. It wasn't like, I was never really happy about it. And I started doing some research. I looked at the schematics again, and just because 10 years down the road, you learn more if you continue doing something, you know what I mean? So I found out that this is a grounded type of switch. And when I originally tried to do the repair and all myself, I was trying to pull, and this is me, inexperienced, young, 20 something years old. I didn't know everything, and I still don't. But anyways, I thought it was a ground and positive, because that's what you need, right? You need a positive and you need a ground. Um, Not for something like this, however. It is normally an opened switch, and then when it reaches its temperature threshold, it closes, and then it actually completes the ground circuit. So it's grounds. That's it. So what I'm going to wind up doing is the one wire here is going to be grounded to the intake manifold or the block. I think I'm just going, because I got a bunch of M6 threads underneath on my intake, where I'm just going to make a ground wire off of one, ground over to the intake, and then the other one, I'm actually going to, you would ground it, and you could ground it a couple of different ways, however you want to do your circuit. But let me take you over to the car. I'm going to show you what I came up with and what I'm going to do. I have a 4-pin Bosch relay. Let me get down here. Hold up, guys. And I got to turn this around. All right, so I got a Bosch 4-pin relay. And then reason I like this particular one is it came with a fuse holder built into it. So I'm gonna try that. So the circuit's fully protected. That's a 30 amp, because this is a 30 to 40 amp rated relay. That's a 30 amp fuse. That fan shouldn't pull no more than 15 amps. So at any point I could change that out if I really wanted to as well. So pretty much it's 4-pin. Now I've already started a little bit of the wiring. And what I did was I never got rid of it fully, but this was the old connector that pretty much fed the fans and everything. And what's really funny is the power circuits, at least. I don't know about the ground circuits, and I don't know about, like I said, I could never find that freaking fan controller or whatever. But anyways, I got out my trusted test light here, and just on a whim, I started probing. And I said, well, let me look at this and see if I get anything. And sure enough, I did. The one terminal here on the far end, when you're looking at this, the back side or even the front side, but this terminal here in this top corner, let me get that so you guys can see it a little bit better. this up top was actually ignition trigger. So when ignition was cycled on or to accessories, that had power. Key turned off, no power. Then the other one, the second one right below it, had power all the time, even with the key off, battery connected. So that gave me what I needed. I needed, with a relay, you need your ignition, you switched, and then you need, power all the time. So that's pretty much what I got going on here. I tapped those wires, and then I hooked it up to my relay, and the colors all match. So whoever gets this car, if you ever have a problem, it won't be a nightmare. You know what I mean? So you'll be able to trace this stuff out. So, and then on the other point of that, instead of hardwiring it, of course, I know I had a plug here, but I decided to make a sub harness off of that. And I got a lot of them laying around now. So I just had a 2-pin Deutsch connector. I'm in love with these things, by the way. So there you just disconnect it, and now that's fully removed. And then this section, you could depin it or whatever you would want to do. So I did that. Your black wire we're going to get to in a minute, but typically that is the ground that, you would ground that to frame or whatever, but this is normally your ground. It's still ground, but we'll talk about that. And then this last one is your load. So again, with a 4-pin relay, you're going to have red, which is battery power, your white, which is ignition switched, blue, which would be load, and then black would be, and actually it doesn't need to follow this color scheme because it's really the way the relay is pinned out. But anyways, load, and then your ground, right? So this blue wire is going to go to this blue wire, which is all connected for my fan, right? So now I have 3 of the 4 wires set up the way that I need. The last one is the ground, and that's actually going to be the one that is going to be the switch for this particular system, because like I was explaining in the first part of the video, this fella is a grounded switch. When it reaches its temperature, it's going to close, and then that is going to ground your circuit. So that other one that's not going to be, on the block or whatever, is actually going to, and it's not going to be just like this, but I'm going to run the black wire over to it. And then when it does what it's supposed to, it completes the circuit. The relay closes, the fan comes on. So that's something that I've been cleaning up. I cleaned up this ground, just redid that wire. Then I don't know what else to tell you guys, but I love nutserts all of a sudden, man. I'm glad I bought these things, invested in it. So that's what I nutserted that there. And I put it this way, guys. I wanted it like this. You won't see this. This is all going to be clean, and that's going to go up. So you'll never see that from the front of the car. But I wanted it all in the front. So again, if there was a problem of diagnosing or whatever, everything is right where you need it to be. And then one of these nuts was frozen, broke off in there. So I wound up cutting that out and putting a nutsert there. So now all of that still is going to be clean. I did order new hardware. I'll get to that. I'll probably do this video when I start putting the front end back together. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and set up my tripod so you guys can see me finish working on this fan setup. Then I can test it, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do to do the test. So hold tight. All right, guys. So go ahead and set this up real quick, just so you guys can see me working on the connectors. Now, something else very important that I want to talk to you guys about, and I ran around a good 25, 30 minutes trying to find this. I just wanted to say to you guys, look, when you're doing wiring, it's really important. Pay attention to your gauges, because especially like with a fan, you want it to flow right. You don't want any restrictions or hangups in that system. So I had bought some wire when I was fooling with the Skyline, doing some wiring off of eBay. Well, actually, I apologize. This stuff came from Amazon, right? And it was 14 gauge. So if you guys can look at the screen and try to focus on the copper that's in this wire that's supposed to be a 14 gauge wire, right? So I went to use this and I noticed, I said, that doesn't look like 14 gauge. Now the circumference of the wire with the insulation and everything is a 14 gauge. It matches, because I got my gauge that I matched it with on my wire crimpers or whatever. So I'm like, this isn't right, man. This is not enough freaking copper content. And what's going to happen is the fan is going to struggle. So I went to my local parts store, and guess what I found? I found 14 gauge, and look at the copper content now that's in there, right? So there's going to be no restrictions. And the current and electricity is just like water, it's just like you need flow. So look at that. And then I'm gonna put both of these side by side so you guys can really see what I'm getting at with the copper content. Hopefully that comes up. So you can see the one has way more copper in it, and that's just going to be better. It's going to make it a more efficient circuit. So just something to keep in mind when you're doing electric work like this. If you can, don't skimp out on the wire. Now on a flip note, eBay, I went on there and I found a seller in I think he's in like Pocomoke City, Maryland, which is ironic. But anyways, he sells automotive quality, automotive standard wiring. And I've bought stuff again for the Skyline from him, and the stuff's been tip-top shape. That Amazon crap is, I'm so disgusted because I have a whole box of it that's pretty much useless, but I'll use it maybe for testing purposes or something like that, but I'll never put it in the freaking car to actually run that because it's trash. Although it's copper, it's not enough, and that's why it's so cheap. So I've spent $35 for a bundle of 6 different colors of that. I spent $15 at AutoZone for this wire, but guess what? It's a better quality wire. You get what you pay for. Just keep that in mind. So when you're doing this, you got a lot of different options. I used to like the WeatherPack wire crimpers, and then I got fancy and I got turned on to doing all of that stuff myself. So that's what I got set up over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and make my connections. And pretty much what you get is uninsulated butt connectors. That's the same stuff that's in your WeatherPack, except the WeatherPack's got the heat shrinkable around it and the glue, where this doesn't. But those black heat shrinks does. So you just pretty much, you make sure you get the right gauge for your the right butt connector for your gauge. As you can see, it fits over it. It's not even crimped yet. So that's how you know this is the right butt connector for what you got. And then you always give it like a nice little twist. And then you just stick your butt connector right over it. And I went too much. You want to kind of grab a little bit of the insulation as well. Give it a nice twist. Now it's locked in there. It's not going anywhere. Nice, tight, give it a nice little tug, it's secure. So we're going to do the same step on this side for the relay. And then I actually got to put another splice in here for my going to the motor side of the car, which is here. That's the splice that's been made on the one side. And here's your heat shrink tubing. I've seen some people, they solder and then they'll just they put electrical tape right over it. To each his own. This is just cleaner. Just slide it to where it's like halfway. And then you just take, what you're gonna do is, I'm gonna take a heat gun and heat that up, and that's done. And then we're just gonna repeat that process for this wire right here. Like it's supposed to. So let me just figure out why I'm not getting what I need to this fan, and I'll be back. All right, guys. After a little diagnosis, probably about at least a half an hour, I had to go back and forth, just trying to figure out what was going on. Because when you see me try to trigger the fan, and showing off for the YouTube moment, it didn't work. And I was like, that's crazy, because I know I got everything, it's only 4 wires. In theory, everything should have worked the way that I wanted. But pretty much what happened is I had my wires switched, and I thought all of the wiring was the same, but it wasn't, with the last relays that I had. So pretty much on here, the blue wire and the red wire was switched, and when I would try to trigger, it would do nothing, and actually backfed through the one wire that I showed you guys here, that was hot all the time. When I tried to trigger it, it actually popped the fuse and it just jacked everything up. But pretty much the red and the blue wires on the actual connector itself had to get switched around. So let's see. Hopefully this thing can focus. All right. So what I had to do with this particular one is I had 87, and the red one should have been 80. I had those like they were swapped around in here, which it's fine. That's the way the relay was set up. And I didn't pay attention to that because I was so used to the blue or the yellow wire being your load, and then your red wire being your hot all the time, where this setup wasn't like that. From their factory. From their factory, the red was actually your load and the blue was your hot all the time. Again, which is fine. But since I had already set up my blue and everything like that, I didn't want to, let me see, you guys can see, because I actually had to, so I got to re-splice, cut some stuff out now. Because I did this like temporarily so I could, test the wires and all. So anyways, once I got that figured out, switched around, the fuse was still popped inside of the car, which is the 15 amp fuse from the factory that is for your cooling fan. So I had to replace that. And then this is protected with a 30 amp. Now, honestly, I could pop this out of here if I wanted to, but I'll just leave it in there. And I could just take this out completely, and I could run this style relay, but then I would just have to make sure, you can see here, that the pins are right, like this. If not, I would have to depin it and switch the pins around so I get it to operate the way that I want. But anyways, I got this to work, and I'm just going to show you this real quick. And then we'll go from there. I'm looking for, of course, as soon as I get back on the freaking video, then I can't find everything that I'm looking for. because this was grounded out here. Hold on, guys. I gotta get my test wire there. And I guess I should have had the freaking tripod, and I didn't. So let's see. There's no way to easily do it. Where is my ground? All right. So there's no way for me to hold the. That's the relay again. Here. Let's see. I guess you'll just have to hear it come on for right now. So you can hear the relay clicking, and then you can hear the fan. You can hear that coming on. So pretty much everything is set up the way that I wanted it now. I don't remember this fan ever blowing this strong. So I just got to put my sheathing over this here when it's time. But there's another test that I'm going to run today so you guys can hear it. I'm just going to go ahead and fix this, make this permanent again. But I'm going to mount it up on the car and see, make sure I got the right length and everything. And then this here, this wire is going to be the ground wire for the motor. So this is fine. This is going to be a little short guy because the only thing I'm going to do is undo this connector, this butt connector here, put a ring terminal on that, and then I'm going to ground right at this point with this other ground. So that'll be fine. And then, the blue wire is the trigger wire. That's actually the power. If you look, blue wire, red wire, power. That's actually going to turn the fan on the way that I want. So what's happening now is the way I got the relay configured. Once it grounds out, it sends the power through the blue wire to the red wire on the motor. And then it turns on like it's supposed to. And like I said, this black wire here, black wire there is going to be grounded to body of car. And I know this is a good ground. So just hold tight. I'm going to go ahead, get all of that done. And then I'm going to do the last test so you guys can see, well, not just you guys, but me too, just to make sure that once I wire it into the car on that side, everything works fine with the switch. So hold tight. All right, guys, it's now time for the moment of truth. I've went ahead and pretty much got the motor wire up. Let me show you guys real quick what we got going on. And of course, I'm not going to leave the ground just like this, but I just did that temporarily. But I'll tuck this wires and all that stuff a lot better when it's time. But I had to do another test just to confirm on my side of what I wanted, because this fan is typically mounted on the front way and it's going to pull cold air in. But it can be mounted as a puller or a pusher, and I have it now set to where it would be a push because it's going to push the air through the radiator instead of being on this side and pulling air through. So I just had to go back through my configuration of the wires because the polarity, this motor, you can switch it and it'll make it either a puller or a pusher. So long story short, on this setup, my blue wire actually went to ground. The blue wire going to the motor side. So you can look, and this is from the factory spall, how I got it, I don't know how many years ago. This thing's still running pretty good. I know, now I'm gonna jinx it. But anyways, so from the factory, their blue wire on this end of the plug translates to the red wire on their side, which typically you see red, you think positive. But because I've reversed polarity, the wire that is going to power is now my ground. And now my ground wire is the trigger wire from the relay, which you can see is sitting right there. And again, I'll tuck all of this stuff up. So that's this this part of the setup is done complete. Just got to get tucked and cleaned up a little bit better. Temporary right now, what I have is, my butt connectors. I got it sitting on my trusted rotor from my GTR, and that's the sensor there. Factory sensor, same one that is set inside of the engine block, of course. Here, this is me simulating how it's going to be grounded to the intake manifold, right? So one side is going to be ground. The other side, because it's going to complete the circuit, right? And this is temporary too. So this part of the setup is still temporary. So I get underneath of the car and, mount it the way that it needs. Then I can make the wires the right length and everything. So anyways, this one here is going to go out of your switch into the relay to be the ground, right? So once this reaches, theoretically, once this reaches its temperature threshold, it's going to close, and then that's going to ground out the circuit, and then the fan and everything should work. And what I've brought over to speed up the process is my trusted MAP gas. Get it nice and hot. I'm going to go ahead and set this up on the tripod so we can see if she's going to work like it's supposed to. So hold tight. All right, guys, it is now the time, a moment of truth. I'm going to go ahead, fire up my torch. And I'm going to go ahead and put that on the switch, just the tip of the switch, of course, to simulate the temperatures that it would see. And as you can hear, the fan is now on. It's working like it's intended. I'm not going to touch that sensor, of course. Just going to take this, step over to the car so you guys can see. The fan is working. Take my piece of paper. It's blowing really well. It's double-sided too, but it just blew it away. And then on the back side, you can see it's doing what it's supposed to because it's sucking the air and pushing it through that way. If we were to take the paper and stick it here and it would blow it away, then we know we got the polarity reversed. But as you can see, it is sucking the air because it's pushing it this way, right? Now, as we're going to sit here, wait for that sensor. I'm not touching that, by the way, but we're going to sensor to cool off and see if the fan is going to turn off. And then you would know that once the car is cooled back off by the fan and the radiator doing its job, the switch is going to open back up. That opens the circuit, the fan turns off, and it should operate like normal, like the factory intended. And another thing that's checked off the list of this car, man, it's been bugging me for like so long, and I'm just so happy that I was able to do this, and like I said, I still gotta clean the wiring and up and stuff like that on that side, but everything on the relay side is pretty much done. So I'm just gonna keep talking, I guess, but I'm gonna and let's see if this fan turns off like it's supposed to once that sensor cools off. Now what I could have did was had like a cup of cold water and poured over that, but we want to simulate it as if it's running, like the engine's running. You can see the fan is still doing this thing. Like I said, I don't ever remember this fan blowing this strong before. So that relay setup and all is what the doctor ordered. And as you can see, the fan just shut off because the sensor has cooled off. And just to make sure that there's YouTube tricks or whatever, I'm gonna go ahead one more time and put that on. And as you can hear, the fan cycle back on. That click you heard would have been the relay. And there's the fan doing its job again, blowing nice cold air. You see the suction on that. That's blowing really good. So it's like, I'm thinking, and this isn't, the car isn't running. So imagine if the car was running, the alternator would be really giving more amperage voltage to the, to pretty much the whole car, but especially the fan, you know. So tempted to hook the battery box up and really cut this thing loose just to hear how it's going to do. I'll probably do that. I might do that off camera though, just to see the power that this thing is going to have. But what I was getting ready to say is I'm tempted now to find another factory switch that operates the same way, that's ground to ground. I mean, it's a ground circuit, and hook that up for the Skyline, because for like R32s, they are mechanical fans. I think all our Skylines are, even the 34s. But I know the 32 is for sure, of course, that's what I have. But what I'm getting at is I wind up putting electric fans in there, and I put that on like a regular. It works, so it's not a fluke. Go ahead, because I have that on the toggle switch, is to find another car with the threads and all that I could use. And I would have to put it maybe like in the water neck or something, some type of adapter or something like that. And in that way, it would be like automatic fan control. But then, if I'm not mistaken, the ECU that I want to run for that car actually has the capability, I want to say to, I think it's going to ground out, but I gotta, once I get it and go down that road with that car, I can set that all up. But I'm quite sure the Link ECU that I want has fan controls in it, and you can run 1 or 2 fans, and that has a 2-fan setup. And I may leave one of them on like a toggle just in case something never happens. So I don't know. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the update. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit me up if you got any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And it's just keep plugging away now on this. Hopefully within another week or two, my ECU comes back from Honda with the S300 version 3. And we can start the process now of building the base map and then getting this thing dyno tuned again, just for reliability. I'm not looking to make trillions of horsepower with this car. It's not what this car was, for me, what I built it to do. I just wanted a nice car that I could cruise in, hit some back roads and stuff like that, and just have a good little car. And that's what this thing is. Been a nice little Japanese hot rod, because soon we'll be back on the Skyline, and it'll be time to get busy. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Got some more content coming of the Integra, stuff to do with it. But you guys have a good week. Just keep enjoying life, man. Really is all I want to tell you guys. And keep loving and keep growing. Until the next time, I love you guys. Stay blessed. Be easy. Peace.